Ron Howard has spent a lifetime demystifying Hollywood. Growing up on the sets of The Andy Griffith Show and Happy Days, he saw the machinery from the inside. But in recent, quieter conversations with fellow filmmakers and journalists, the Oscar-winning director has spoken of a chilling realization. The golden age wasn't golden for everyone. We worshiped the images on screen, Howard once told a biographer. But the flesh and blood people behind them? Some were architects of silence and suffering. Drawing on decades of industry lore, personal observations, and documented history, Howard has pointed to 6 specific actors whose legacies are tarnished by evil that the studio system actively protected. Before there was a hashtag, there was Errol Flynn. The swashbuckling star of The Adventures of Robin Hood was the epitome of masculine bravado. But Ron Howard notes that Flynn's 1942 statutory rape trial was the first crack in Hollywood's moral facade. 2 teenage girls, Peggy Satterlee and Betty Hansen, accused Flynn of sexual misconduct. What shocked Howard wasn't just the crime, but the defense. Flynn's lawyers argued that because he was a movie star, the girls must have been groupies lying for attention. Flynn was acquitted, but decades later, his private memoirs, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, confirmed his predatory nature. Howard points out that Flynn's evil wasn't merely lust. It was the utter contempt for consequence. He bragged about his conquests, with the same casual tone he used to discuss fencing. Even after his death in 1959, the truth dripped out slowly, most notably in Charles Hyam's biography, which detailed Flynn's suspected Nazi sympathies and violent outbursts. For Howard, Flynn represents the predator who realized the law was no match for a good smile. Kirk Douglas was a titan. From Spartacus to Lust for Life, his chin cleft was a symbol of indomitable will. But Ron Howard has quietly acknowledged the violent shadow that followed the actor. While the public saw a philanthropist, insiders saw a man who used physical intimidation as a directorial tool. The most damning accusation, which Howard has referenced in private industry roundtables, involves Natalie Wood. In Suzanne Finstad's definitive biography Natasha, and later corroborated by Wood's sister Lana Wood, Douglas was named as the actor who raped the 16-year-old Natalie Wood in 1955. Douglas never faced charges, and the story was buried until after his death. Howard has noted that the evil of Kirk Douglas was not just the act itself, but the systemic protection that followed. He was known to humiliate crew members for fun, and once threw a heavy ashtray at a director who disagreed with him. Unlike Flynn, Douglas lived to be 103, receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award while the alleged victim drowned mysteriously in 1981. The dissonance, Howard argues, is the definition of Golden Age rot. A hero on the poster, a terror in the trailer. Ron Howard has worked with difficult actors, but he reserves a specific category for Faye Dunaway. While not a criminal in the legal sense, Dunaway's evil was emotional terrorism. During the filming of Chinatown, she famously slapped director Roman Polanski, ironic given later revelations, and demanded that Jack Nicholson's co-star be fired. But it was Mommy Dearest that exposed her cruelty to the light. Howard points out that Dunaway didn't just play Joan Crawford, she became a tyrant. According to production records, she physically abused an extra, screamed at director Frank Perry until he wept, and forced the crew to work 20-hour days to accommodate her process. Later, on the set of The Wicked Lady, she allegedly spat in the face of a cameraman who asked her to move left. For Howard, the evil here is the diva as destroyer. Dunaway's reputation became so toxic that by the 2000s, no major studio would insure her films. She ended her career alone, fired from a Broadway play for berating a stagehand. Her sin was using talent as a license to dehumanize everyone below her on the call sheet. John Wayne is America, but to Ron Howard, he is also the most dangerous kind of evil, the ideological bully who uses patriotism as a shield. Howard has often cited Wayne's infamous 1971 Playboy interview, where the Duke declared that he believed in white supremacy until the blacks are educated to a point of responsibility, and that Native Americans were selfishly trying to keep the land they were slaughtered for. On set, Wayne was a terror. During the filming of The Alamo, he personally fired over a dozen extras for having un-American haircuts. He physically threatened a Mexican-American actor who suggested that history might be told from the other side. Howard notes that Wayne's cruelty was systematic. He blacklisted suspected communists without evidence and mocked the disabled, including director John Ford, who was blind in one eye. When he died in 1979, President Carter ordered flags flown at half-mast, but Howard suggests we remember the man who refused to shake the hand of a Japanese-American veteran because of his race. That, Howard says, is the tyrant of the West.
Ron Howard is painfully direct about Roman Polanski. He has stated publicly that he refused to applaud when Polanski won the Best Director Oscar for The Pianist in 2003 while still a fugitive. The facts are unassailable. In 1977, Polanski, then 44, drugged and raped 13-year-old Samantha Geimer. He pleaded guilty to unlawful sex with a minor. But before sentencing, he fled to France, where he remains free. Howard's critique is aimed at the industry's response. Over 100 prominent Hollywood figures signed a petition in 2009 demanding Polanski's release from Swiss custody. It was a disgrace, Howard later said. They turn a child's assault into a debate about auteur theory. Polanski's evil is not just the act of rape. It is the intellectual vanity that allows Hollywood to separate the art from the monster. Howard points out that Polanski continued to direct films starring A-listers who knew exactly where he was hiding. For the director of A Beautiful Mind, Polanski represents the moment Hollywood chose genius over justice and lost its soul. The most heartbreaking entry on Howard's list is Mickey Rooney. The face of Andy Hardy and Babes in Arms was America's sweetheart. But behind the "Hey, kids" grin was a man consumed by rage and financial predation. Rooney was married 8 times and multiple ex-wives, including Ava Gardner and Martha Vickers, accused him of physical and emotional abuse. He once threw Martha Vickers down a flight of stairs while she was pregnant. But the most documented evil came late in life. In 2011, Rooney's stepson and his 8th wife, Jan, were placed under conservatorship after a court found they had been drugging Rooney, isolating him from his biological children, and stealing millions. Rooney died in 2014 with only $18,000 to his name, his body unclaimed for days. Howard sees Rooney as the smiling liar. He made the world laugh while terrorizing his own family. His evil was the gaslight, the belief that if you make enough people happy in the dark, no one will turn on the lights in your own home. Ron Howard concludes that these 6 men and women were not anomalies. They were products of a system that equated box office receipts with moral absolution. The Golden Age studios employed fixers who paid off police, bribed journalists, and threatened victims. We talk about the Me Too movement like it's new, Howard once reflected. But the whispers are 90 years old. The only thing new is that people are finally listening. Whether it was Flynn's predation, Douglas's violence, Dunaway's tyranny, Wayne's hatred, Polanski's flight, or Rooney's domestic war, the lesson is the same. The camera does not see the soul. It only sees the performance. And for the victims of these 6 stars, the show never really ended. It just cut to black.